What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Between the Lines podcast. My name is Kyle Grover, your host, the man with the plan. No, I never have a plan. I'm just here to complain until maybe some things get changed. So we've got a full episode today. Okay. We're going to be talking about the Loudoun County stuff, like what we talked about last week, right? And it seems like we've been talking about that for 3 weeks, which we have, because it's kind of a big story. We're also going to be talking about Mayor Bill de Blasio thinking that it's a smart idea to get rid of gifted and talented programs in New York City, which is one of the main vectors which a lot of kids that are very talented in those areas, such as music and art, get out of bad areas of New York City. And then, of course, for our favorite segment, You Have Failed. A teacher has decided that she is now going to promote F the Police and F Amerikkka flags and all kinds of other crazy stuff in his or her classroom, and astounding about the school system and the processes and all of this other stuff. Definitely is more in her realm. View on the craziness that has gone on over the past few years.
You can definitely see a shift in overall school atmosphere. We go from, the teachers are great and teachers are fabulous and we should thank them, to, you're just a teacher. A lot of things have changed. Curriculum is getting... As a teacher, you have all of these added expectations put on you that aren't necessarily what's in the kids' best interest, which is very unfortunate.
Yep, I couldn't agree with you more. And it's some of the stuff we're going to be talking about is just it's going to be mind blowing. Have you had the chance to read through some of the Loudoun County stuff?
I did read it this afternoon, and I'm very perplexed is the word for it. Not really sure how that happened, or how the narrative changed from what it should have been compared to what it actually is.
I agree. And we're going to kind of dive into that. I'll put you back on the screen here in just a second. Let me talk a little bit about some of the updates that are going on and everything else. So, y'all, like we said, this really is not a political thing. This really isn't a political thing for us. Politicians change hands every 2 years, every 4 years. Culture is downstream from politics. And ultimately, unfortunately, the problem is the culture has soured from what it used to be. Now, I'm not going to sit there and say, and I think I speak for Stephanie when I say this, we're not saying that the culture was perfect 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. That is not the case, but it has certainly deteriorated since generations in World War II in the 1950s and 60s and 70s, after we had this great revolution of thought with the civil rights movement and all of these incredible good things for the country. And now we're completely turning almost a 180 to what we were doing. We were trending up. Now we're almost surrendering as a culture. We're a culture that doesn't like conflict. We're a culture that's a victim culture. We're a culture that refuses to take responsibility for the things we say and do. And at the same time, we're also a culture that believes ourselves the greatest human beings that have ever existed, when religious people know that is not the case at all, because sin follows everybody. But at the same time, you have to understand that there is no humility taught anymore. There is no accountability for things people say and do. And really, that's the whole point of this podcast, was to, and I pulled Stephanie off to the side and had a conversation with her, and I said, how do you feel about starting a podcast, talking about the issues going on in schools? And that was really before all of this crazy stuff started really coming out about all of this stuff. And she said, I'm all for it. Let's do it. And really, it was going to be a conversation about the particulars of like how tough it is to grade some kids, and do you take into account behavioral and dealing with parents and all of these different things that you don't really get to see behind the scenes. But now all of this stuff that politicians and celebrities and all of this crazy stuff is being pushed out into the news cycle. Now we gotta cover it. So I mean, we picked a good time to start apparently, but so let's kind of dive in here and talk about the updates to the Loudoun County stuff. Now, before we get into the prosecutor, Loudoun County, again, this is from the Daily Wire. Loudoun County School Board member resigns following Daily Wire investigation, which, did you read just that article, or did you end up reading more as you got into it?
Just that one. I had a meeting after school. One of those fun things that we have to do after our kids go home.
Right. Yeah. So, as you know, I'll follow through. This is Beth Bart. She's a far left member of Loudoun County School Board. For those of you who don't know, Loudoun County is one of the highest paid school positions in the entire country. Like, I'm talking that you start at, as a teacher, I believe one of my coworkers who lived nearby said that they start out at about $65,000 to $70,000 a year.
Wow.
Which is crazy.
Especially compared to what we make.
Right, yeah,
degree.
Yeah. I mean, and that's with a bachelor's degree, no less. So,
That's crazy.
But so she was first elected in 2019. Bartz has been criticized by parent groups over critical race theory and transgender policies. Critical race theory, we're going to talk about that on another episode podcast, and transgender policies in the school system. Her resignation will take effect November 2nd, 2021, which staves off an ongoing recall attempt. It was not an easy decision or a decision made in haste. After much thought and careful consideration, it is the right decision for me and my family, said Bartz on a statement on Friday. I am grateful to have a role in empowering students to achieve academic and personal successes and supportive of and most importantly, inclusive school environments. I am especially proud to have participated in helping steer Loudoun County school system through uncharted waters of educating students throughout a global pandemic, she added in a post on Facebook and to her personal blog, Bart's blog. So, for those of you who want to actually go through and read her resignation, you can go ahead and do that. So Bart's resignation comes amidst criticism of Loudoun County School Board system. A recent Daily Wire report that the superintendent of the school district told the public at a June 22nd meeting, to his knowledge, there were no records of assaults in school bathrooms, even though a sexual assault had allegedly occurred in a school bathroom several weeks earlier. And then we can kind of move on to the prosecutor bit here in just a second. But Steph, I wanna kind of get your opinion on this stuff. I mean, how?
So, the article that I read initially, I am all for kids dressing how they please, acting how they please, like that is totally fine. I think every kid is an individual. However, I draw a line when another child is possibly in danger because of those choices. For this instance in particular, a kid, a male, decided to wear a skirt to school, and was allowed to use the female restroom, which then in turn, a girl ended up being assaulted. As a parent,
allegedly though, right? Allegedly. I mean, apparently that's still, it's still under investigation and whatnot. But
allegedly, but you can't have cameras in bathrooms, so it's just, honestly he said, she said. So we don't know what actually happened, and honestly, I don't think we're ever going to really know what happened because none of us were there. But when you open up that door for anybody to use any bathroom, you open yourself up to all of these what ifs and a lot of lawsuits potentially. I think that's a very slippery slope. And as a public school, I don't think that that's a place to die on. That's not the hill to die on.
No, I agree with you. I think that, look, I'm all for kids being comfortable. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely. Like, I want kids to be, because when a kid's comfortable in the school that they're in, that's when they start to progress and start to achieve things.
Absolutely.
But when you have a girl who allegedly was assaulted, and apparently the father took her to a doctor, and I mean, for those of you who have children, right? For those of you who have children in the room, make sure they're out of the room. 3, 2, 1. Okay. They did a swab, and apparently it was positive towards the prosecution's case. And I hate to say it. I wish to God that I didn't have to say this. The I told you so's. For years, conservatives primarily, some people in the middle and some people even on the left side of the aisle, right, have been saying that this can be a problem. Now, if you want to do a third type of bathroom where it's specifically for transgender students, I'm all for it.
Right.
I'm all for it. As long as they are not using the bathroom, it confuses other kids. Because kids are very impressionable. And you cannot have them in the same room. You know, I don't have kids of my own. My students are my kids. As a parent, Miss Ryan, you have 2 kids, right?
I do.
Okay. Boy and a girl, girl, yes. Boy. Okay.
Boy and a girl.
Okay. As a mother, how would you handle that kind of a situation? Would you still react the same way as that Loudoun County father did?
I sure would have. Because nobody's hearing him. You allowed this other kid to use a bathroom that wasn't designed for him. And in return, another child got hurt. I'm all for kids being who they are. However, it's not okay to then in the same breath put another child in an awkward situation, because maybe that child is extremely uncomfortable. Do her feelings not matter? Because, well, he's a female today, but what is he tomorrow? Like, there's a lot of gray area that I don't think a lot of people are taking into account.
I agree, and really, it shouldn't have even came down to this. Really, it should not have been. I agree, it should have been handled in house, but Loudoun County completely failed, fell flat on its face. At least I believe so. The completely fell flat on its face when it came to the belief that, you know, nobody was informed of this. Nobody was informed of the person that then decided that they were going to transfer this kid to a completely different school, which he then sexually assaulted another child. So, who's going to be held accountable? Look, Bart's resigned. I get that, but at the same time, is she going to get sued? I mean, like, are the school board members going to get sued? Can they get sued? I guess I don't know.
There has to be, so whoever brought up the bill initially, there had to have been other people on the panel to agree to it. It's not only a Barth who said, hey, let's do this. She had to get buy-in from the other people on the school board. So in my opinion, as a whole, they should all be on the hook for this.
I agree.
Put another child in a dangerous situation, and honestly, as an educator, keeping a kid safe is your first priority.
Right, exactly.
They failed to do that.
Exactly. And again, it's something that it can be 100% complete, can be completely avoidable. It can be completely avoidable, while at the same time respecting how the child is handling things. But at the same time, I got to switch my hand here. I'm getting tired. And in a second, I'm gonna have to get my charger so that I can charge you up. But at some point, we gotta sit back as a society and we gotta be like, okay, well, we can't go all in one direction and all in the other. We have to kind of come together in the middle here, because
right.
Now, I am not one of these parents that I'm not one of these people that are like, oh, it's just this guy. I'm not one of these people that has never read a science book before. I get it. Some kids are confused. Some of that could be from the parents. Some of that could be from just them as a personal personal person. Dear Lord, as a person who just is confused, and that's something that they should have counseling services for. That's something that they need help to talk through. But to sit there and say that, oh, you know, this is not our problem, you know, that this didn't happen. That
didn't happen. This is our problem.
Right. And we greenlit this. Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate, but let me put you down for a second. Oh, go ahead.
Okay. I was going to say, there's got to be some way to meet in the middle. So let's say you've got traditional, the men's, the women's, fine. But then there needs to be like a separate, a neutral restroom. And that way it's your choice to go into that one or not. And then you take out all of the what ifs and put it in the hands of kids and their parents to make a choice for themselves.
Right. And if they choose the wrong choice, then that's on them.
Yeah.
I agree. So now we're gonna move over to the Loudoun County Prosecutor. I'm gonna grab my charger real quick just so that I can charge you up.
Okay.
So y'all just give me 30 seconds to grab that. I'll be right back. Okay, so sorry about that, y'all. But again, I have to preface this because we as a society have gotten so reactionary when it comes to things. Sorry about that. I'll have to switch back over. We have gotten so reactionary as a society to the point where you can't talk about sensitive subjects and then have people be incredibly upset about it. It's just, unfortunately, that's just the way that the world works now, and it should not be that way. It should not be the way, and this is not the way that we conduct ourselves as a civilized society. It's just not. It's not going to work long term. And then two, people are going to be at each other's throats left and right until eventually something's going to happen to where people are going to be like, you know what? I don't view the person that I'm with anymore as somebody that is in the best interest of my child. And I can't really say I blame them for that. There we go. So, we're getting Stephanie back on right now. My phone died. So, she's probably wondering what's going on. But, again, thank y'all so much for sticking with us through this stuff. I know it's probably frustrating. I know it's probably like, okay, well, it seems like they don't know what they're doing. Really, I mean, we're just trying our best here. All right.
And hung up.
Yeah, my phone died. Okay, you're good now. You're plugged up to the wall. I gotta just switch over to FaceTime here. You switching over? I'm trying to FaceTime you right now. Oh, there you go.
And we're back.
Whew. Okay, she's back, y'all. All right, so now we're going to start talking about the Loudoun County Prosecutor defends sending alleged rapist to a different school. He had no history. This is quite fascinating, honestly. Don't really know how I feel about this, but all right. So, Loudoun, again, this is from the Daily Wire. Loudoun County Prosecutor Buddha Barrage, is that how I pronounce that? I'm pretty sure. I apologize if I butchered that. Defended the decision to transfer a boy accused of sexually assaulting a female student in a girls' bathroom to a different high school in the same school district late last week, telling local media that the boy had no prior record, when in actuality that is absolutely not the case. Even though it's alleged, I'm assuming the reason why he was able to say that, I don't know what your thought on this is, Steph, but I think the reason why they're able to say that is because he was not actually convicted yet.
Yes, I would agree.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, so the Daily Wire reported earlier in October that Scott Smith's daughter was allegedly raped in a high school bathroom by a male student who reportedly identifies as gender fluid. That's where I have the problem. That's one of my problems right there. Smith's face was splashed across the news networks, and his arrest was used as an example of challenging behavior by parents in a letter from the School Board Association.
Him a terrorist.
Yep. Yep.
But they called his terroristic behaviors. I don't think standing up for my child is me being a terrorist.
Right. And nobody would believe that.
Right. Like, as a parent, you're an advocate, and you've got to continue to advocate until somebody listens.
Yep.
But again, he had a narrative that they did not like, so they twisted it, so now he's the bad guy.
Yep. When any normal, I don't think I speak out of the realm of craziness here when I say any parent would have reacted the exact same way.
Agreed.
My mother probably would have burned the school down to the ground. She would have been so mad. Smith's face.
Let's hope not.
No, not really. But the National School Board Association, which I believe is just the biggest load of garbage that has ever existed, to the Department of Justice demanding the DOJ investigate confrontations before they become domestic terrorism or hate crimes. Okay, so let's just unpack just this paragraph right here, guys. So now you have the DOJ, the Department of Justice, and the school board associations, which is a member of schools across the country, now advocating that the federal government bring in people with guns, basically, to deal with parents, which is, last I checked,
insanity.
Which is their job as somebody on a school board. Most of the time, most people are not happy when they come to talk to you. It's like being a police officer. Most of the time, you're not going to get all hugs and roses when you talk to people.
Right.
And you weren't here for this, Steph, but I think it was last week or the week before that, I brought it's right online. The letter that was sent to President Biden. And they were using these words of domestic terrorism and hate crimes for parents that are in schools simply just there to advocate for their kids.
Yeah. They don't like your narrative, so they're going to change it to fit theirs.
Exactly. And it's just mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. Do you have anything that you wanted to add out of this paragraph?
The whole situation is just baffling to me. I don't even know what to say.
I don't know. I just don't get how you can call people the most important thing in people's lives as a domestic terrorist. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
And it doesn't hold water
because
for me.
You're advocating for your child to get some semblance of justice.
Yep. And
I don't understand it.
No, me either. And the kid identifies as gender fluid. I have a problem with that too.
Well, since when? Since yesterday?
Yep.
Since 2 weeks back? Like,
now, if the child has actually gone through the process and had transgenderism, which I do not agree with to begin with at all, but I get it, okay?
Sure.
To an extent. But at the same time, gender fluid is a far left term. It basically means that I could be a male one day and a female the next day.
Right.
When males and females both have, and across the country, you have masculine male or females. You have effeminate males. This is not an uncommon thing to people.
No.
And now we're using gender fluid, so I'm gender fluid, so I get to go into the bathroom. That to me doesn't hold water, and that wouldn't hold water for any parent
whenever
either.
I please, essentially, because it's Tuesday, and today I think I'm a female, so I'm going to go in the female bathroom. Like, I don't think that you can pick and choose that.
Right, exactly. And like
maybe I'm wrong.
Exactly, and like we said, guys, we're all for kids being comfortable in the environment in which they're learning. Well, we're all for that.
Absolutely.
You know, we're.
However, not at another child's expense.
Right, exactly. Because then that's a net negative. That's not. There's no positive to be gained there. So the 15-year-old student, who was, according to Smith, charged with several counts of sexual assault, according to a charge of forcible rape and a charge of forcible sodomy, ostensibly violent crimes. The student, however, was transferred to another school in the same district and reportedly went on to commit a second sexual assault. Beverage, according to Smith and Smith's attorney, Elizabeth Lancaster, pushed for jail time against Smith, who was slapped with charges of disorderly conduct and resisting arrest, per the Daily Mail, citing the Daily Wire's coverage, and appeared in court to personally prosecute Smith, despite knowing that the details of the case involved his daughter, and despite campaigning on a progressive platform opposed to over-incarceration. Smith was eventually given a 10-day suspended sentence. The alleged rapist was given an ankle monitor, and the student is now being held in juvenile detention center, per recent reports. And I might as well just go and finish this off. Beverage defended her office's approach to the alleged student rapist in an interview with the local media last week, claiming that the office believed that the teen wasn't a threat despite the severity of allegations. We believe, based on the facts, that he had no history of having done this prior to this offense that was alleged. Beverage told a Washington, D.C. news outlet. She said because of that, there was a belief that it was unlikely he would have reoffended. She said her office consulted with the family of the victim and the Office of Probation about the decision. The outlet noted she said that the judge agreed with her recommendation. In the last little bit, she then suggested that there were unreported details about the alleged attack. I would ask this for people to be patient, because we know that what sometimes is reported initially is not then what the end result of all the facts are. The Loudoun County Sheriff's Office, in its own statement, alluded to the previous relationship between the two students. The suspect and the victim were familiar to each other. The investigation was complex, and a public announcement had the potential to identify a juvenile victim. The student, however, is now being charged with the second offense, also a sexual assault. The Sheriff's Office on October 6th said the same boy, now 15, forced a female student into an empty classroom and touched her inappropriately, according to Fox 5 in Washington, D.C. That was a lot. So
we moved him from one school to another school because he's not going to do this again.
Yeah, that's...
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that to me doesn't hold water as a parent. So I mean, I'll lay out my thoughts about this, and then you can fill me in on what you thought about the whole process. To me, it seemed like this is somebody that sympathized with the child. Is somebody that probably leans left themselves. The fact that the administrators didn't bring this to anybody else's attention other than the people that were in the school, and no email was sent to the school where the child was going to. even just as a hey, just a heads up, this is what's going on, is criminal to me. That is it, allegedly, if all of this is true, right? And again, you have to wait for the facts to come out, because this is true. She could be blowing smoke, and if that's the case, I believe people who falsely accuse people of rape with no evidence whatsoever should face some sort of crime,
right?
Because it's a very, very heavy thing that you lay onto people. But I don't. To me, like, if I'll let you speak on the parent bit, but for me, as a teacher, who is my whole goal is to protect kids. If I think that the kid, in any way, shape, or form, has been hurt, or, I mean, for crying out loud, if we believe, even in an inkling of a second, that a child is being abused at home or anything, we have to report it. If it's not, and it comes back, and that was the case, and you didn't report it, you could lose your job on top of many other fines. So the fact that this was not reported in any way, shape, or form is frankly criminal. And any administration that was dealing with this, anybody that was dealing with this, I don't blame the second school, because it's like, okay, well, why would I ask if I wouldn't know? So that's kind of my opinion on it. So you can go ahead with your take on it.
My concern is, why was the child in question not just removed from school completely until investigations were finished? We have the ability now to do online school, alternative schooling. There is a plethora of different learning platforms. So why was this child taken out of school A and then put into school B so quickly, without saying, you know what, you need to stay home until all of this gets investigated and fleshed out, and then we'll discuss placement going forward? Because now you have put 2 schools at risk.
Exactly.
For no reason.
Exactly. When really, again, this should have been avoided. Right. I mean, so because this is a unique situation that parents were involved with kids, again, I don't have the purview of not only being a teacher in a school district, but at the same time also being a parent with kids in the district. I mean, as a parent looking at this, how do you view it?
I'm baffled. I'm concerned. If I have a personal child who is unsure of who they are as a person, then let's discuss that. But I don't think that it's appropriate for my children to be put into that type of predicament that they didn't ask for. If I was a parent at the second school, I would be mortified that I wasn't given some sort of heads up. I know that you can't discuss other kids to other parents and that kind of thing, but I feel like something could have been put out, something vague, but that would give parents a heads up that, hey, there's some stuff happening. Just want to make you aware that wasn't given to them. So it's as a parent, I'm angry. Because honestly, the whole situation could have been 100% from either end avoided, and it wasn't.
Yep. And
because we're trying to be so tolerant of other people that we're putting other people in possible harm's way.
right, and now I didn't believe any of this. Not talking about the article, but for years we have heard people on the left side of the aisle as well as many people in the middle and the right side of the aisle sitting there saying, believe all women. Anytime there was an alleged sexual assault or anything that came up, that was the cry over social media, over news outlets, all over the place. But the moment that it's in this doesn't appear like it to me, the family does not come off as a family that is extreme right wing by any stretch of the imagination.
Right.
And the fact that because it goes against what they are trying to push both in politics but at the same time in culture, I've watched the news all week and in the gym. Not a word's been said about it. It's been all about Biden and the spending package and all of that stuff. Not a single word has been said about the Loudoun County stuff, and there's a reason for that. And it's,
I think if people don't discuss it, that they're hoping that people will forget.
right.
And sadly, that's not the case, because a girl is now potentially scarred for life.
Right, exactly. And it's,
even though she went to school that's supposed to be a safe environment for her.
Yep. Which is
and it's not now.
Which should be a safe environment for any kid.
Right.
Any kid. It doesn't matter again, it doesn't matter what their race, ethnicity, anything like that. What any of that stuff is. That is not that should not be a prerequisite for you to feel safe in a school. I'm sorry.
Right.
And the fact that people are saying that it's a hate crime just shows. And the woman in the school board meeting saying that your daughter's lying and everything else. That's a good way to get punched in the mouth. Honestly.
Right.
I mean, my wife, you know, I don't have a wife, but my wife, I can guarantee you this. My wife would haul off and punch that woman in the mouth. And I don't condone any sort of violence, but when you sit there and say, oh, you know, when you sit there and say stuff like that, like, oh, you're lying, you're a hateful person, all of these different things, you can't be doing that kind of stuff. So let me dive into our second. I'm going to put you down for just a second. So we'll take a break on the Loudoun County stuff. But the second thing.
We believe the right workspace sets the stage for more moments that matter. Through our nationwide network of local furniture
I have no idea why this is doing this.
You'll find the best workplace solutions for however and wherever your team needs them.
Okay, there we go. So, let's get to some fun stuff, shall we? So, my title for today's podcast was Just Because You Can Do Something Doesn't Mean You Should. And I think this fits in quite well to the Loudoun County stuff. I think it works quite well for the New York City for this next topic, and as well as for what we're going to talk about at the very end for our favorite section, which is You Failed. Let's kind of dive into this one. New York City to phase out gifted and talented programs. Now, I don't know. I've been only down here in South Carolina for about 3 years now. I don't know if y'all have such a thing as gifted and talented programs, but in New York City and New York, we do. It's basically,
We
well,
do too.
okay. So,
We do too.
so basically, Bill de Blasio, arguably the worst mayor in the history of New York City, and that's saying something. The man is just terrible at his job. Is looking to phase out the gifted and talented program he announced Friday, bowing to critics who assert that the coveted model is racist. Of course. Because that's our solution to everything. Current students in the accelerated learning program can stay in their separate schools and classrooms to completion, but new cohorts will be completely eliminated by fall of 2022, ending testing for kids as young as 4. The model, which admits roughly 2,500 kids per year, is being replaced by Brilliant New York City, a program offering students aged 8 and up chances for accelerated learning while staying in their regular classrooms with their pupils. The Department of Education said teachers who would identify kids best suited for the new initiative. De Blasio announced that the major overhaul, despite being in the final months of his term in office, the candidates to replace him, Democrat, we don't really care about that, but they did not want to completely eliminate the program, which critics have attacked in part because of the higher number of white and Asian students that gain entry through the exam, and so on and so forth. So this goes on for a while. So what's your take on this?
Okay, so I am gifted and talented certified.
Oh, okay.
Through the state of South Carolina. I also teach in a magnet program that is not based on ability. It's not based on academics. It's only if your parents basically completed an application form, you got in. Gifted and talented programs are federally mandated. So I don't really have a good grasp as to why he thinks that he will phase them out. It's a requirement for federal money. The fact that it is racist, alert for us, or gifted and talented in general, is not a determining factor of if a child is intelligent. It is if a child has the potential to be higher than their peers. For us in the state, we take a test in 2nd grade, and kids are kind of placed in a gifted and talented program depending on that test. They take several tests. They take the COGAT, the Ravens test. They take all kinds of tests. In addition, though, it's also based on the recommendations from teachers, standardized testing scores from either the MAP testing that we are required to take, or state testing that is required at the end of every school year. So for him to say that it's racist, I disagree. I find that a lot of the kids that I teach who are in the gifted and talented are from all races, nationalities, ethnical backgrounds. They aren't only the white kids. So I don't believe that he will get that passed because it is from the federal government. It's required.
Right. Okay.
So I find that would be really difficult for him to do successfully.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. So this could be blowing smoke for all he knows.
Yes.
But even if he could do this is to me, and again, I am not in and do not have the same level of expertise that you do. However, but to me, eliminating a program strictly because you don't like the outcome,
right?
That doesn't that makes zero sense to me. Just because
it's not appropriate,
right? Exactly.
It's not appropriate for kids. It's not in kids' best interest. It's that he doesn't like it. Well, there's a lot of things
critics
that I'm
don't
required
like
to
it,
do
right?
that I don't like.
Right,
But,
critics don't like it.
sorry,
Right.
It is what it is.
Yep, and the fact that people are looking at the demographics of this and not looking at this like, oh, that's great. Look at all these kids that are going into this program. Just shows that they have no business having this conversation in school because they don't come in with the right idea of what they should be looking for anyway. If you're going into this having a conversation about race, then you considering the fact that discrimination against anything, sexual orientation, race, anything, is illegal and a fireable and a good way to not get funding to your school.
Right.
It doesn't make any sense and not just that. We live in 2021. The fact that people are discriminating against this, or the fact that just because there is a larger group of white and Asian students, which, by the way, I find it hilarious now that Asian students are now being put into the white group that
right.
that they are not by statistical poll. White families do not make anywhere near the level that Asian families do.
Right.
But yet these are the same people that will decry white privilege left and right. When in actuality it's got nothing to do with any of that. It's the fact that a lot of times it's having a mother and a father in the home. It's having accountability in the home. It's making sure that you're raising the child up to make sure that when they go to school, they're doing stuff in school. They're not focused on all the external stuff. They're not trying to, if something happens in school, you hold them accountable for what happened in school and you don't reward them until the behavior changes. And it just, to me, it's just another reason why New York City is just an absolute dumpster fire of a city. Just the fact that it's always the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Always. Even though when they have no idea what they're talking about.
That's kind of the story everywhere. I see it appears anyway.
Yes. So, all right, now time to get to our really fun section of the episode. Now we're going to be talking about a teacher who has failed in her job, failed in what he or she is supposed to do, failed all the way around, and for that, we will either decide if she gets to stay on, is suspended, or if she is fired for his or her offense. I keep saying her. I don't know why. So I'll do my take after this. Then you do your take. I'll do mine, and then we'll come to conclusions on whether or not she should be kept, suspended, or fired. So photos show fuck the police. Pardon my French for my subscribers in here. If you have kids, make sure they're out of the room. 3, 2, 1. F Amerikkka. Flags hanging in Los Angeles classroom. And, of course, you can also see which, by the way, I find it interesting that the American flag's just draped over here. Not showing, barely. And then you have the Black Lives Matter flag, the transgender flag. Do you know what flag this is?
No.
The Progress flag. So it's a combination of the gay flag, the transgender flag, and everything else. This is the progress flag. So this is for everybody gender fluid, transgender, gay, bisexual. It's so that everybody gets a stripe, basically, because everybody has to be invited to the party. So, and then this one at the very, very bottom is the most interesting one out of all of them. This one right here is the Palestinian flag.
Oh.
Yeah. The terrorist organization. Yes, Palestine.
Right. Okay.
The one that has said repeatedly on social media that they want to eradicate the Jewish state and all the Jews in Jerusalem and everything else. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, a classroom at a Los Angeles high school, at a Los Angeles public high school, was decorated with hateful posters. The vicious anti-American posters shared by classroom at Alexander Hamilton High School. One picture shows a poster declaring "F America." You notice how America is spelled here. That is the communist way, the communist Russian way how America was spelled. This is native land, and another taking aim at law enforcement officials. Policing is violent, anti-black settler institution that was organized or originated as slave patrols. The poster reads, "The primary mandate is to protect property and to militarily enforce white supremacist capitalism. They are doing their jobs as they are trained and paid to do. You can't fix what isn't broken. That's why we fight for police and prison abolition. F the police." Another image in the classroom showed the blackboard covered with the Palestinian flag, as well as the pride flag, the transgender flag, along with others supporting the Black Lives Matter. A U.S. flag, meanwhile, appeared to be draped over a piece of furniture in the corner. This decisive display was shared Tuesday on Twitter by Parents Defending Education, which describes itself on its website as a national grassroots organization fighting indoctrination in the classroom. However, the group's president and founder, Nicole Neely, I hope I pronounced that right, describes herself as a think tank executive on her LinkedIn profile, and has worked in her senior positions for conservative groups, including the Independent Women's Forum, Cato Institute, and according to the group's website, still the spiteful rhetoric highlighted by the group on many social media, questioning on if the posters should be regarded as hate speech. Another critic suggested the display looked like a lesson on the history of art as a political propaganda. And here's some pictures of some of the posters. Many called for the unnamed teacher who reportedly hung banners to be fired. Seriously, what's going on in our schools? Another tweet read, "Where are the principals? This teacher needs to go." Meanwhile, others questioned whether the signs were just merely a part of the classroom discussion. I love that we hear the whole story. I love how we can hear the whole story so we can put these posters in context and get the teacher's reasoning for this. One sarcastic tweet read. I'll read it to the bottom, and then we'll take our opinions on this. Oh wait, never mind. We're jumping immediately to fire the teacher because we're afraid of confronting ideas that offend us, it continued. In a statement to the Post on Friday, a spokeswoman of the Los Angeles Unified School District, the nation's second largest school system and serving nearly 630,000 students, there, I can spit that out, said the posters have since been brought down after being up for at least the bulk of this week. Most students in Los Angeles returned to classes August 16th. The district did not comment on who hung the posters or if any action was taken against the person. It did not provide any further information or context explaining why the signs were in the display in the classroom. However, the district noted policy requiring both students and adults treated equally and respectfully, while using slurs against anybody on the basis of race, spoken language, color, sex, religion, handicap, national origin, immigration status, age, sexual orientation, or political beliefs. Teachers are expected to reflect district policies of inclusion when decorating their classrooms according to the statement. Any displays that are determined to be overtly or objectively political or otherwise run afoul of our policies of inclusion and respectful treatment of others will be taken down and handled administratively, district officials said. Nonetheless, not every subjective belief that any one display is political can be accommodated to a district as large and diverse as LA United or LA Unified. So, your take.
For starters, I would like to know the context of these posters. I know that when I teach the wars, we do some of the posters for propaganda from all sides. I don't necessarily believe that all of those are appropriate. But I also think too, if you're going to show a subset of posters that depict a certain topic, then they need to all be expressed. So, from all the sides. Personally, as a parent, I would have an issue if I had children in that class. I don't believe that type of derogatory behavior is in a school standard or a state standard, so I don't really know what she would have been teaching, other than just pure hatred for other people. But I would have a real problem if it were my children in that class.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, context says everything. I'm not one of these people that just automatically calls for the firing of somebody just for whatever,
right.
But say for a hypothetical, this is up because they are pushing some sort of basically communist ideals.
Then I think then she needs to be let go. Sadly, and as a teacher, I hate to say that because I think that teachers attempt to do all that they possibly can in the best interest of the kids that they teach. However, I have always been told, I have taught other teachers that you have to keep your personal preferences out of the classroom because really it's not about you, it's about your students. If those posters that she or he had put up were a personal reflection of her, then I think, that would be difficult as an admin to keep her at my school.
Right.
If you cannot convince me or prove to me that you had some standard to back that up, then we have a problem.
Right. I agree. And really, guys, the standards are what back us up to what we're teaching. That's where all of our teaching comes from. It's a certain standard that we have to hold kids to. And every state has them. New York State had them. South Carolina has them. Every state has them. But my take is... the posters would be one thing, okay? The posters would be one thing on a political dialogue, on, say, whatever topic those posters are about. However, the one thing that it makes me think that it's political is because of the flags that are hanging up and how the American flag is kind of just draped off to the side. Because, look... when you're supporting organizations like Black Lives Matter, who is, their members have overtly sat there and said that they are trained Marxists. Well, for those of you who don't know who Karl Marx is, he's the guy who basically created communism. Putting the transgender flag up there, putting the Pride Progress flag up there. These are flags that do not need to be represented in the classroom because sex is not something that should really be talked about in the classroom. It's not something that should really be shared in the classroom. That's something that should be having a conversation to the administrators or to a counselor about. That is not something that you have a conversation with your teacher about. And the teacher should not be having a conversation with the kids about either. So, and then on top of that, to also throw in Palestine on there, now it's a political thing. Because, which to me says that this person views a particular set of ideals that most of which are not true. Just historically speaking, Palestine is not this thing that for some reason a majority of left-leaning people believe it is. It is a horrible, horrible organization. Basically that just believes in the eradication of Israel. When you have BLM burning down the cities all year last year for a man who was a convicted criminal, I tend to disbelieve your motives on that. So let's get to our final take on this. Does she? I say she. I got you saying it now. Does the person?
It's a predominantly
female
career, so the chances are pretty high that she's female.
Right. So are we saying we're going to keep her, we're going to suspend her, or she's fired?
I think we need to suspend her and get some more info on her reasoning as to why she chose that.
Okay. I would agree with you on the suspension, leaning more towards firing. Because the one reason why I was not full all 100% for suspension is because of the reaction of the school district. The fact that the school district then decided to take them down insinuates
that she did something wrong.
That's my take on that.
Yeah.
Now, if they don't take them down and they say this is a political discussion, whatever, then you leave them up. It's part of the curriculum.
Because maybe she's teaching politics. I don't know.
Right. So, I'm going to say suspension. Leaning more towards firing. Like, it's very, very close to firing. And we hate to say that, but it's about a teacher, but you have a job when you go into a school. Protect the kids, teach the kids, create a lasting connection with kids. That's what it's about. Literally nothing else. And that's
agreed.
So I guess we'll have to find out what happens with this. I doubt it'll be in the news anymore, just because it's made the headlines, and now nobody wants to talk about it. So
it's over.
Yep, it's all over. So again, this was a really good episode. We were able to kind of talk. I'm glad that I had somebody here that I could talk with rather than just me talking to a camera. Again, thanks guys for sticking with us. Even through the technology issue, we're kind of still new to this, but it's been fun for the first day, and we made it work.
Yay!
Yep. So, Steph, you got anything to say to the people before I hop off here?
I think I'm good.
All right, y'all.
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us. This is Between the Lines. I am Kyle Grover. This is Stephanie Ryan, and we will see you guys